We're here to share the story of a world that's full of light.
In a world where children should be protected, nurtured, and given every opportunity to thrive, millions face unimaginable hardships daily. From the dusty villages of Nigeria to the bombed-out schools of Gaza, from the trafficking routes of Southeast Asia to the poverty-stricken neighborhoods of America, children's voices are being silenced. In today's episode, we will unveil the harsh realities confronting our world's most vulnerable citizens. It is a call to action, not just for policymakers and leaders, but for every person who believes in a future where children's rights are upheld and protected universally. Welcome to the Onaolapo Show. I am Heavenly God Tiwatope Onaolapo, and this is our very first episode. I can't even explain how happy I am that you're here with us today. This show is all about exploring the world through the eyes of a father and daughter and sharing important stories that can make a real difference. Before we dive in, I want to take a moment to introduce someone very special, my co-host, my first teacher, the most brilliant and handsome dad in the whole world, and the wonderful husband to my amazing mom, my dad, Jimoh Onaolapo. Dad, I'm so proud to do this with you today.
Wow, Heavenly God. I'm truly moved. And let me just take a moment before we start the show properly, not just as your co-host today, but as your father, to say thank you, my precious daughter. You know, sitting here with you today, I can't help but reflect on this journey we started with the Onaolapo Show. I'm speaking straight from my heart now. I am so incredibly proud to be your father. Heavenly God, you are 100% and more of everything I ever wished I could be when I was a child. You see, watching you grow into your role, not just as a host, but as a voice for children, a beacon of light, and an example to your peers, has been one of the greatest joy of my life. You see, on this project, Heavenly God, you've surpassed every expectation I had. You've brought passion, dedication, and a level of wisdom and confidence that is well beyond your years. And the most amazing part, you are just 9 years old, baby girl. You've done wonderfully, Heavenly God. Truly, any child watching this show would be inspired by you. And that is my target. That is my aim. That is my goal. And I know many already are. I believe with all my heart that you will explode into greatness very soon. Heavenly God, not just because of your talent, but because of the heart, the love, and the purpose you put into everything you do. You are a shining light, my baby girl. You are a voice. And I say this with complete confidence. Heavenly God, the world has received a great gift in you. Your kindness, your insight, your commitment to creating a platform that empowers other children, that uplift voices, and that brings meaningful conversation to life. Heavenly God, it is extraordinary. I see you. I honor you. Keep shining, baby girl. You are changing lives one episode at a time. Thank you once again for being the amazing host you are. And more than that, for being the incredible child you are.
Aww, I'm blushing right now. That means so much to me. Thank you, my dad. Today's episode is titled Silent Cries, the global crisis of children's rights. And honestly, it's a heavy topic, but also one filled with hope.
Yes, exactly.
Only if we all choose to act.
Definitely, yeah.
We will not just talk about statistics here. We are giving voice to millions of children across the globe whose stories are often unheard.
Yeah.
Buckle up, because what you're about to hear will shake you, inspire you, and most importantly, it will call you to action.
Heavenly God, we're not just talking about numbers and facts. We're talking about real children just like you. Kids who have dreams, hopes, and talents, but face enormous challenges because their rights are not protected. From Africa to Asia, from Europe to the Americas, children's voices are being silenced every day. And we want to change that and make the world a better place.
Exactly. Dad, can we just pause for a moment and look at some real numbers? Because these aren't just statistics. These are real children we're talking about. Right now, around the world, 1 billion children are living in poverty, surviving on less than $1.90 per day. Dad, what can Dad even buy in a shop?
Nothing.
That can't even get a child some snacks. Maybe not even a bottle of water in some places. It's heartbreaking to imagine children trying to live on that little every day.
Yes, Heavenly God, you're right.
Then there are 160 million children working as child laborers, and many are doing dangerous jobs just to survive.
Yeah.
12 million girls are married off every year, losing their childhood and dreams. And Dad, 426 million children are growing up in conflict zones, surrounded by war and fear.
That is sad.
Dad, these numbers are more than just facts.
Yes.
Behind each one is a child with dreams, with hopes, and with a future that might never happen.
Exactly.
Many are forced to drop out of school,
Correct.
face abuse, or take on adult burdens way too soon.
Correct.
It's not fair, Dad.
It's not.
It feels like the world is turning their back on them.
Exactly.
And I can't help but think, isn't this one of the greatest moral failures we're facing today?
You are absolutely right, Heavenly God. And before we even look at the rest of the world, baby girl, let's start with our own homeland, Nigeria. Heavenly God. Nigeria, as you know, is Africa's most populous nation and the most popular black nation globally.
Yes.
With over 200 million people.
Yeah.
But, my daughter, our children in Nigeria as we speak are in serious trouble. The leadership in Nigeria is failing 100%. And I say this with deep pain. Our president and politicians seems completely clueless when it comes to the plight of the people. All they do is siphon funds meant for the masses and enrich themselves while the rest of the country suffer. Heavenly God, what about the ministry that's supposed to protect children and families?
Yeah.
In Nigeria, the Federal Ministry of Women Affairs and Social Development is the body responsible for children's welfare.
Yes.
And it's currently led by Ajia Iman Sulaiman Ibrahim. But sadly, Heavenly God, that ministry is barely functioning. Corruption runs through every part of government in Nigeria, including this ministry. You would think the minister will be passionate about making life better for children and their parents, but they won't because they don't care. And the result, children are suffering every day. Heavenly God, let's talk about reality now. You see, child labor is normal in Nigeria. We see children breaking stones, carrying mixed cement at construction sites. Real hard labor. Heavenly God, we see them hawking goods on dangerous highways every day. And nobody says anything. See, let me tell you a short story. Heavenly God, I grew up in one of the most dangerous and popular slums in Makoko, Nigeria. There was a group of Igbo guys, mostly from Ebonyi State, who would bring underage children from age 12, 13, 14, up to 17 years from their village to Lagos. These kids were made to serve them and hawk snacks and drinks under the scorching sun and heavy rain. The most popular snacks then was, I think it was Gala. And they would sell it on highways where cars zooms by at deadly speeds. Heavenly God, every 3 months, I personally saw 3 to 5 children get hit by vehicles. Every 3 months. And at least 2 will lose their lives. Others permanently disabled and returned back to the village. It happens so often that it felt normal. And you know the worst part of it? As a child, I didn't even feel bad because it was so common. But as I grew older and understand the truth, I realized it was child abuse, and it makes me angry, Heavenly God, because as we speak, it is still happening in Nigeria. And everyone sees it, including the government, and they do nothing about it. These are kids that should be in school,
Yes.
be provided for.
Yes.
What about sexual violence, Heavenly God? It goes unpunished. In Nigeria, less than 5% of child sexual abuse cases leads to conviction. The rest, cover up or ignored. And it's getting worse every day, not better. Now let's talk about mental health. Probably that will be the most neglected issue in Nigeria, because there's a cultural belief that children can't be depressed or suffer mentally. That is called cultural denial. But the reality, children suffer deeply and nobody listen. Can you imagine, Heavenly God? There's only one child psychiatrist for every 4 million people in Nigeria today. And when a child, 14-year-old Adebayo, Chidera, or Mustafa tells their parent that they feel hopeless and depressed, what happens to them? They are taken to churches, mosque, or traditional healer for spiritual cleansing instead of them to get medical help. That's a millions of African children misunderstood, dismissed, and left to battle pain alone. Heavenly God, I know what that feels like. I lived through it. I was sexually molested by a man and a woman as a teenager. I carried 25 liters of water on my head at 12 years old. And by the time I was 15, I was carrying 2 25-liter jerry cans in my hands, selling water to fuel myself. I still remember every hand that hurt me, every negative word spoken into my life, every trauma I endured. When I decided to get married to my wife, your mom, I made sure to invest in my mental health. I spent a lot of time and money seeing psychiatrists and therapists just to ensure I was mentally and emotionally prepared to have a partner. Even after we had you, I didn't stop. I kept working on myself every single day. Heavenly God, I work hard to make sure my past trauma doesn't affect you, your siblings, or your mom. But it's not easy. I need to be sincere with you. And the reason why I'm doing that is because I don't want to raise you all through my lens of pains. And I refuse to dump my struggles onto you guys because you are innocent. And that's why I'm also so careful with friendships. I don't have friends. It's hard to keep them because many of them knowingly or unknowingly re-traumatize me. And the worst part, I can't even speak or talk to people around me about what I was going through then. Not to friends, not to family members, not even neighbors. Why? Because they wouldn't understand me. They will either dismiss my pain or think I'm going crazy. That's why we see so many narcissistic adults in Nigeria today. They grew up in a pain and never healed. They say things like, oh, I went through worse and still turned out fine. But Heavenly God, did they really turn out fine?
No.
No, they became abusive, traumatized adults, acting out their pain on others because no one ever apologized to them. No one ever acknowledged their hurt.
Oh, Dad, I am so sorry you went through all those pains. But look at you now. You're standing up strong. I'm so proud of you.
Thank you, my girl.
So, Dad, is this the reason many people repeat cycles of pain and trauma without even realizing it?
Well, that's a deep question, Heavenly God. But the truth is, many people are carrying wounds they've never confronted. And because of that, they unknowingly pass them down, whether to their children, their partners, or people around them. But the first step to breaking the cycles is honest self-reflection.
What kind of self-reflection are you talking about, Dad?
The kind that requires people to look at themselves without excuse, without self-defense, and without trying to justify their actions. People need to ask themselves, if they've ever experienced deep trauma that they never fully addressed. Were they hurt by an authority figure as a child but never had a chance to express it, seek closure, or heal? What is their relationship with their father like? Does it still affect them today? How did they see their mother and the choices she made in raising them? Has it ever shaped the way they view women, especially those who are successful or struggling? Do they find themselves overly dependent on certain people for emotional support in areas where they feel wounded? Heavenly God, is there a part of their life where they feel broken or empty, but they've ignored instead of confronting it? Who raised them? Do they carry silent resentment towards people who could have helped them or their family escape poverty, but they don't? Did they have to raise themselves because of neglectful or irresponsible parents, leading them to adopt survivor habits they aren't proud of? Were they raised by a single parent? How did that shape their view of family, responsibility, relationship, and most importantly, have they found healing? Or are they just moving through life, carrying pain and passing it on to the next generation? They need to ask themselves all these honest questions.
Wow, that's a lot to think about.
Yeah.
So if they answers these questions truthfully, does that mean they're healed?
Not necessarily, Heavenly God, but it's the first step. See, healing begins when people stop denying their wounds and start addressing them. It is not about pretending that pain doesn't exist. It's about choosing to walk through it so it no longer controls them. You see, Heavenly God, when someone becomes whole, their decisions naturally reflect that wholeness. They won't unknowingly raise their children through a lens of trauma or let old wounds shape their choices.
So is healing a choice?
Absolutely, baby girl. And it's a choice people have to make if they truly want to break the cycle for themselves and future generations. Because in Nigeria, a lot of parents blame children for everything, for being born, for mistakes they didn't make. And those unhealed wounds become cycle of pain and pass down from parent to child. Do you know what that will result into? Generation caught in a cycle of unresolved trauma. You see, Heavenly God, that is not the reason why we are here today. Let's go back to the discussion we started. As we speak in Nigeria today, more than 10.5 million children are out of schools. 75,000 children are trafficked every year, and 43% of children are forced into labor. 80% of them face emotional or physical abuse in their own homes. Heavenly God, these numbers are devastating. But more than that, they are children. Real, breathing children with dreams that may never come true because of poverty, neglect, and abuse. See, we can't keep silence, and that is why this show is so important. On this show, we will be using our voice every week to fight for children, to expose the truth, and to demand change.
Dad, let's travel to the Middle East. The Middle East protracted conflicts have created generations of children who know nothing but war. These children have witnessed unspeakable violence and lost their fundamental right to safety, education, and childhood. Their normalized trauma represents one of the most profound humanitarian crises of our time. In Gaza, 14,000 plus kids have died since October 2023.
Oh my God.
625,000 children displaced, and 90% report trauma symptoms. In Yemen, 11 million children need humanitarian aid.
Yeah.
And another 2.2 million suffer from acute malnutrition.
Yeah.
In Syria, 13.9 million children are born into war, and 2.8 million live as refugees. In Ukraine, 5.2 million children displaced.
Oh God.
3,000 plus schools destroyed. 1.5 million children at risk of PTSD. And 19,500 children forcibly deported to Russia.
Oh God.
Taking from their families, re-educated to forget who they are. Dad, that's not just war.
Yeah.
It's erasing their identity.
You know what, Heavenly God? Sometimes, yeah, when I say the world is going crazy, it may sound like I'm exaggerating, baby girl. But just take a look at the Russia-Ukraine conflict and you will understand exactly what I mean. Heavenly God, this war has created an entire generation of traumatized children. These are kids who have witnessed killings with their own naked eyes, lived through bombings, and many have lost their parents, their families, their homes, everything. But what's even more troubling, Heavenly God, it is what you just mentioned now. The systemic deportation of thousands of Ukrainian children to Russia. Heavenly God, let that sink in. Children are being taken forcibly, removed from their homeland, their roots, and it's not just wrong. It's a war crime, direct violation of international humanitarian law. And these children, they are facing forced deportation, identity erasure, and systemic re-education. Do you know the goal? To erase their Ukrainian heritage completely. That's not just war. It's an assault on their identity, their very existence as Ukrainians. Now, here's the part that hurt me deeply, oh Heavenly God. Some months ago, during what was supposed to be a peace meeting, the President of United States, Donald Trump, and President Zelensky of Ukraine were flexing muscles, arguing instead of sitting down to truly find a solution to this devastating war. And you know what was at stake during that argument? The lives of over 5.2 million displaced children. These are innocent children, Heavenly God. Not soldiers, not politician children, caught in the middle of adult problems. Instead of leaders in Europe and around the world to put their heads together to bring this war to an end, every one of them are fanning the flames, pushing their own agendas. Why the real victims, children like you, suffering? And here is something I want everyone watching to think about right now. Heavenly God. You see, Vladimir Putin, Zelensky, and all their political cabinet members, none of their children are out there suffering in this war. Not one of their family members is dodging bullets or losing their homes or getting deported. It is always the children of ordinary people who suffer. The ones who didn't start this war. The ones who have nothing to do with politics. And that's what frustrates me. Heavenly God, why should children suffer more in adult conflicts? Why? Why are children paying the highest price for wars they didn't start and don't even understand? This is the injustice of our world today. And that is why everyone needs to start speaking up. Because children should never be the casualty of power struggles between adults. No, it is not their job. They didn't start it. They don't know how it started. They are innocent. Everybody should excuse them, for God's sake. Come on.
Dad,
Yeah?
when we talk about places where children face some of the harshest realities, South Asia really stands out, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, it's like a disaster zone for children.
Correct.
And sadly, it's also the heart of child marriage. That's just heartbreaking.
Yeah.
Dad, do you remember Priya?
Yeah.
That girl we talked about from Bangladesh?
Yeah.
She was only 14 when she was married off to a man 3 times her age.
Yeah.
I'll never forget her words. She said, "My childhood ended the day my father told me I was to be married." That is so sad, Dad.
So sad, so sad.
It really shows how child marriage doesn't just steal childhood, but hope and dreams too, doesn't it?
You are absolutely 100% right, Heavenly God. South Asia remains the global epicenter of child marriage. And Bangladesh sadly has the highest rates in that region. See, even though there are laws against it, the reality on ground tells different story. You see, poverty, gender inequality, and deep-rooted cultural traditions continue to fuel these violations of children's rights. Just imagine, Heavenly God, girls as young as 12 years old being forced into marriage. That means their education is cut short. They are exposed to early pregnancies, domestic violence, and this creates a circle of intergenerational poverty that will be so very difficult to break. And here is something that really troubles me every time I think about this, Heavenly God. Because the global economic hardship has also estimated that 10 million additional child marriage could happen by 2030. That's 10 million more childhood lost. It's heartbreaking.
Dad.
Yeah?
Another region where children are in serious danger is Southeast Asia.
Yeah.
It's heartbreaking to know that 1.2 million children are trafficked every single year in that region alone.
Yeah.
And what's even more shocking, Dad,
Yeah?
is that only 1 in 100 of these victims are ever found. And less than 0.5% of traffickers actually face punishment. That means almost all the people destroying these young's lives walk free. Dad,
Yeah?
it's modern slavery.
Exactly.
Plain and simple. These kids are controlled through violence, fear, and lies. And many of them never get the chance to live free again.
Yes.
It's terrifying and so unfair. How can the world let this keep happening?
Heavenly God. You see, the things children are facing around the world today are deeply troubling.
Yes.
In Thailand fishing industry, for example, children as young as 10 are working up to 20 hours a day in extremely risky conditions. In Cambodia, some children are being forced into domestic labor where they endure physical and sexual abuse. Heavenly God. In Philippines, that place has become the global epicenter of cyber sex trafficking, where children are abused on camera for paying customers worldwide. You see, all these kinds of abuses, they continue to exist because of deep poverty, widespread corruption, and weak child protection system all over the whole world. Let's not forget the human cost, Heavenly God. 25,000 children have lost their lives over the past 10 years due to gang-related violence. And over 300,000 unaccompanied minors have tried to reach the US, often facing abuse, detention, and constant fear along the way. These are kids simply trying to survive. Heavenly God, but the price is incredibly too high.
Yes.
Even in the North America, one of the world's wealthiest regions, Heavenly God, children are not immune to hardship. In the United States, for example, over 12 million children live in poverty. And there are serious racial disparities. 28% of black children and 25% of Hispanic children live below the poverty line, compared to just 10% of white children. Also in Canada, 53% of indigenous children live in poverty, compared to 17% nationally. On top of all of this, mental health challenges are skyrocketing. In the US, suicide is now the second leading cause of death for kids aged 10 to 14. That's a staggering reality. And yet, only about 20% of children who need mental health support actually receive it. Let's not forget more than 1.3 million children in the US experiencing homelessness. And sadly, gun-related incidents are now the leading cause of death for children in the US. Heavenly God, when we put all of this together, it's clear that something is fundamentally wrong with the world. Despite all the wealth and resources available, far too many children are still being left behind. And unless we take this issue seriously, everywhere, not just in poor regions, these circles of suffering will continue.
Yes.
Children will continue to suffer. So people need to start standing up and start speaking up.
Yes.
People need to stop the fear. People need to stop taking sides now. Adult needs to sit tight and do right by these children.
Yes. Dad,
Yeah?
let's talk about Australia and Oceania. Because children over there, especially indigenous kids, are facing a serious crisis too. Did you know that indigenous children in Australia are 23 times more likely to be jailed than non-indigenous children?
Yeah.
That's 23 times, Dad. It's not just unfair, it's heartbreaking. And in New Zealand, about 23% of Maori children are living in poverty.
Correct.
These are children from the original communities of the land, and yet they're struggling the most.
Yeah.
On top of all this, the Pacific Islands are literally sinking because of climate change. Families are losing their homes, their lands, and their way of life, and children are the ones suffering the most. Dad, all of this just makes me think, what kind of world are adults really giving to children?
Heavenly good. You ask a very good question. But how can I answer you? I am not one of the world leaders who make decisions. But the truth is that what is happening in Australia and across Oceania really shows how systemic discrimination continues to harm indigenous children in ways many people don't even realize. In New Zealand, 23% of Maori children live in poverty compared to just 13% of the general population. And that gap hasn't closed for years. And in Australia, it's even shocking. Aboriginal and Torres Strait Island kids make up only 6% of the youth population. But do you know what? Somehow, they account for 55% of children in youth detention. That's not just a number, Heavenly God. That's a crisis. Every day, the government keeps showing failure after failure in improving the well-being of indigenous children. And as if that's not enough, the Pacific Island, entire communities are being forced to relocate because of rising sea level. Children are losing their ancestral lands and future security.
Yes.
Again, who suffer? Children suffer the most.
Yes.
Let's shift to Europe. Many people think of Europe as a place of prosperity and human rights. But beneath that surface, there's deep inequality, especially for children from marginalized communities. We have over 1.3 million refugee kids facing racism, no access to proper education, and limited health care. Do you know about Roma children? Roma children, heavenly good. 5.6 million Roma people in Europe live under extreme discrimination. In Slovakia, 62% of kids are in segregated school. In Romania, only 38% complete secondary education compared to 95% of non-Roma children. That's a huge gap and a huge injustice. Even in Eastern Europe, children with disabilities are often sent to large institutions, places where they face neglect and isolation. Countries like Bulgaria, Romania, and Moldova, they have some of the highest rates of institutionalization globally, with over 60,000 children living in these settings, away from the society. Heavenly God, see, inequality is everywhere. And children pay the highest price every time. And it is so unfortunate. Adults are the one in the middle of all this.
Dad,
Yeah?
it's heartbreaking when you look at the numbers. Over 160 million kids around the world are working instead of going to school.
Correct.
And out of that, 79 million are trapped in dangerous jobs. Jobs put their health, safety, and even lives at risk. These kids are like me, kids who should be learning, playing, and dreaming about their future. But instead, they're out there working in factories, on farms, construction sites, just to survive. Dad,
Yeah?
it's like their childhood is being stolen right in front of the world's eyes.
Correct. It's even worse since after the COVID-19 pandemic. It's getting worse. because an additional 9 million children were pushed into labor. Let me give you a very good real example. In Democratic Republic of Congo, children as young as 6 are working in cobalt mines. And guess what? Guess what, my daughter? That cobalt is what powers our smartphones, laptop, and even electric car batteries. What about Bangladesh garment factories? Kids are working 12-hour shift just to produce clothes for major brand we all know. Everyone sees this. Heavenly God, the whole world knows. People are only pretending like everything is fine. The sad reality is that many of our modern day conveniences are built on the stolen childhood of the world's most vulnerable children. And that, my daughter, is something we need to keep speaking out about every day.
Dad.
Yeah?
The online world has also become really dangerous for kids. In just 2021 alone, over 85 million images of child sexual abuse were found online. That's beyond shocking.
Yeah.
And 70% of children have been contacted by strangers on the internet, many of them with bad intentions.
Correct.
You know what's really heartbreaking?
What's that?
Some live streamed abuse happens for as little as $15. That's the price of a pizza.
Correct.
And someone is using it to harm a child.
And that is truth. It's adults who are behind this horror. Not strangers from another planet, but parents, uncles, aunties, neighbors, people children should trust. The digital world has created unprecedented dangers for kids. And sadly, the very people who should protect them are often the ones exploiting them. Listen to this, baby girl. The Internet Watch Foundation reported a 1,058% increase in child sexual abuse material online over the last decade. That's not a mistake, over 1,000% increase. And sadly, the Philippines has become the global epicenter of live stream child abuse, with people in wealthier countries paying to direct abuse in real time. Heavenly God, it's sickening and it's real. See, technology has opened the door to all this evil, but it can also be used for good. There are a lot of AI tools that can detect child abuse materials, age verification system, and keep predators out of kid spaces. And a lot of digital literacy programs can also help children to stay safe. But you know the concerning issue. When adults misuse the internet by involving children, especially girl child, in online content that isn't appropriate for their age, such as dancing and making them show some part of their body just because of views, engagement, and social media monetization. See, I'm not saying it's a crime for children to engage in entertainment on social media. No, many kids, enjoy creative activities online. But are they also teaching those kids how to see dangers of the internet? Are they being equipped, especially the girl child, with skills to recognize and avoid potential abuser or harmful situations online? No one. Nobody is doing that. And the pace of exploitation is even faster than the pace of protection. Heavenly God, the bad guys are always one step ahead. And that's why we need coordinated global action now or more than ever. This is not just a national issue. It's a global emergency. And if adults don't act fast, more children will suffer in silence, online, and even offline. It's really a sad situation we found ourselves around the world today.
Dad, 244 million children around the world are out of school.
Correct.
Can you imagine that? And 129 million of them are girls. That's like entire countries of kids being denied their future. And it gets worse. 49% of children living with disabilities never attend school, especially in countries like Nigeria and other parts of Africa. These kids are left behind, not because they can't learn, But because the world doesn't give them a chance, education should be a right, Dad, not a dream. No child should have to fight just to sit in a classroom.
Absolutely 100% correct. Heavenly Gold. Education should be a right, not a dream. But the reality is, for millions of children, especially in countries like Nigeria, where we come from, it is still just a dream, and the dream is slipping away from them. Let me break it down. 244 million kids globally are out of school, and 129 million of them are girls. It's worse in conflict zones like Syria, where 40% of schools have been destroyed. In rural areas, kids walk almost 4 kilometers just to get to class. But here is what hit close to home. Nigeria, a country blessed with resources, yet can't even provide classroom education for 1 out of 100 children who don't have special needs. So tell me, how would they provide it for children who do? Let me tell you what I witnessed in Songo, where we used to live before we relocate. That community has a population of over 5 million people, and children make up the majority. But guess what? Public government-owned schools there are not up to 10 in number. Just imagine that. Now, in a single street, you find at least 2 to 3 private schools, and most of them operate in mushroom environments, giving kids irrelevant, outdated learning just to make ends meet. No proper curriculum, no quality teachers, and still parents are forced to pay through their nose because they have no other options. Government did not give them any options. Now, for children with disabilities who need special care and tailored education, what hope do they have? If the system fails the average child, it will completely abandon children with special needs, not in a place like Nigeria. And that's why I say it's a real life crisis.
Yes.
It's not just about books and classroom.
Yes.
It's about a stolen future for millions of children. And sadly, our country, Nigeria, is a prime example of this injustice.
Yes. Dad,
Yeah?
what do you think are the root causes behind all these systemic failures?
The root causes of these systemic failures are multifaceted. First, it's often poverty. You see, when families struggle to meet basic needs, children becomes vulnerable to exploitation, neglect, and lack of access to education.
Yes.
That is the truth. And another big factor is inequality. Whether it is gender inequality or racial discrimination or the marginalization of a certain communities, many children around the world don't receive the same opportunity or protection because of these biases.
Yes.
Then there is lack of political will and ineffective governance. In many places around the world, governments fails to prioritize children's rights or lack the resources to create effective system of protection and support.
Yeah.
In countries like Nigeria, corruption and poor allocation of funds also contribute to these problems. And lastly, there is cultural and social factors. You see, there are a lot of harmful traditions like child marriage, child labor, or the normalization of abuse. And that has continued because people have lived with them for generations. So we need to break these circles through education, awareness, and strong advocacy for children's rights. Heavenly God, the good news is this. You see, all these problems aren't impossible to fix. With enough focus, collective efforts, and a true commitment to change. See, we can address the root causes and build systems that actually protect and nurture every child around the world.
Dad, can we take a moment to talk about some success stories around the world?
Oh, that's lovely.
What exactly did Rwanda do to cut violence by 40%? And how is Brazil able to lift 36 million people out of poverty with Bolsa Familia program? Also back in Africa, I read that Kenya's tech reached 2.7 million kids with digital learning. There's a little bit of joy in my heart. Isn't that amazing, Dad?
Yes, that's great. Heavenly good. You see, Rwanda's approach to reduce violence was groundbreaking, heavenly good. See, they implemented a kind of comprehensive legal reform, integrating child protection into every sector of governance. This means that child protection wasn't just an isolated issue in that country. It became a part of everything, from education, health, to law enforcement and social welfare. And they did it by actively involving communities and institutions. See, it was a collective effort to rebuild the country and prioritize the future of the children. As for Kenya, they've shown us, everybody in Africa, how technology can be a game changer.
Yes.
Their mobile learning platform reached over 2.7 million children who were previously excluded from education due to geographical barriers or other challenges. This is a prime example of how technology can bridge the gaps in traditional education, especially in areas that lack infrastructure.
Yes.
It's a powerful reminder that change is possible as long as there's the will to act. And in Philippines, the Anti-Online Sexual Abuse and Exploitation of Children law created a robust legal framework to protect children from digital threats. And it was a very good essential step in addressing the rising danger of online exploitation in that country, which ensured that, there were legal safeguards to combat these abuses. And in Vietnam, they were able to reduce child labor by, I think, 67% through targeted interventions and economic support for vulnerable families. So, instead of just focusing on punishment, they provided families with resources, skills training, and financial support to help lift them out of poverty, preventing children from being forced into labor.
Mm-hmm.
And heavenly good, when we talk about global effort to fight poverty, you see, one shining example that consistently stands out is that Brazil Bolsa Familia program you mentioned earlier. It's a real model of how a targeted social welfare initiative can change millions of lives. Not just temporarily, but in a sustainable, long-term way. For the benefit of everyone watching us, I will explain. The Bolsa Familia program, which is now back in full force under its original name after briefly being rebranded as the Auxílio Brasil, is essentially a cash transfer program. But it's not just giving money away randomly to every member of the country. It's conditional. Family receive monthly payment only if they meet specific health and education requirements. For example now, children have to attend school regularly and vaccination must be up to date. Pregnant women are expected to go for prenatal care. And families with young children need to engage with public health services. So, do you know what they did there?
Yeah.
It's a kind of holistic approach, supporting immediate needs while investing in the future of children. Let me break it down more. See, to qualify, family must be living in extreme poverty, meaning they earn, I think, up to 218 Brazilian real per person per month. And that's about $45. And in Naira, that is almost 70,000 Naira. When we have people earning 20, 30,000 Naira as a classroom teacher in Nigeria, and still going to feed 3 to 4 families with it, there's problem in Nigeria. Let me continue. There's also a provision for family earning slightly more, but only if they have children, pregnant women, or nursing mother with little baby in the household. Now, there are additional benefits too, which I found very important, especially in supporting vulnerable groups. For example, children under 6 get higher benefits, and there are specific additions for teenagers, pregnant women, and infants. Now, heavenly good, this is where it gets really, really inspiring. Since its creation in 2003, the program has helped lift over 25 million people out of poverty. That's not just a statistics.
Yeah.
That's a real family, real futures transformed. During the COVID-19 pandemic, do you know what Brazil did? Brazil expanded its support through emergency aid and later Auxílio Brasil, reaching over 68 million people, many of whom were shielded from falling into extreme poverty during a difficult time. Heavenly God, this is a time in Nigeria when politicians are hoarding essential food items such as rice, beans, salt, sugar, all sorts of grains that were donated to help the people. Instead of distributing it to those in need, they stockpile them in warehouses while families go hungry during those periods in Nigeria. Not until desperate people started discovering these warehouses and breaking in that the truth started coming out. But even then, it's led to a lot of chaos, stampedes, and a lot of people lost their lives. Now, compare that to a government that truly care about their people.
Yes.
Leaders who prioritize feeding their citizens rather than withholding aid for personal or political gain. Can you see the difference between leadership that value its people and one that is willing to sacrifice its own future?
Yeah.
Come on, let's go back to Brazil. As of 2023, 2 years ago, under the President Lula, Bolsa Familia has been relaunched stronger, reaching over 21 million families. That's around 60 million people. 60 million. And according to the Institution of Applied Economic Research in Brazil, the program is even meant to help 9 million people rise above poverty line every year. So, Heavenly God, what am I trying to say here? You see, targeted investment in people, especially children and mothers, will create a ripple effect. It's not just about alleviating poverty today. It is not about giving 1 derika of rice, 1 bowl of gari and sugar with 20 pieces of granite to people during election period, as Nigerian politicians used to do. No, that is not what we are talking about. It's about breaking circles of poverty for generations. And programs like Bolsa Familia show us that strategic social policy work when they are consistent, data-driven, and community-focused. To cap it all, my daughter, you see all these success stories we talked about, they share one common element. They address multiple dimensions of children's life. They engage community as active participants.
Yes.
They utilized evidence-based approach and maintain sustained political commitment. Heavenly God, they prove that meaningful progress is possible when children's rights are prioritized. See, this conversation is not just timely. It is urgent. The global crisis of children's rights is one of the most pressing issues we face today. And it demands more than just talk. It demands immediate and sustained action from every part of the society.
Mm-hmm.
When we look at what's happening around the world today, from child trafficking, abuse and exploitation to lack of access to education and health care, even protection, we realize that every stakeholder has a role to play. Heavenly God, everyone, government, businesses, communities, and even individuals like you and me, we all have the responsibility and, more importantly, the capacity to be part of the solution. And here's the truth. We need to move beyond just expressing concern. Sympathy is not enough. We must demand and make concrete commitment. Commitment that are backed by resources, with accountability, mechanisms, and the most crucial part, political will. See, we need to face the truth, Heavenly God. The cost of inaction isn't just the visible suffering of children today. It is the long-term loss of human potential, the delay in societal progress, and frankly, a betrayal of a shared humanity. Every time I see a child's right being violated, it is an avoidable tragedy, and it reflects a moral failure. Yes. Not just by one person or institution, but by our global community. So, Heavenly God, I believe we must challenge ourselves and those in power to act boldly and swiftly.
Yes.
Children can't wait anymore. Their future are shaped by what we do right now.
Yes.
Let's ensure that we are not just bystanders to their suffering, but active participants in their protection and empowerment.
Absolutely, Dad. You're so right. To protect our children, we need stronger laws, more funding for their rights, and most importantly, we need to listen to what they have to say. Every child deserves to be heard, valued, and given the chance to build a future free from harm. When we protect our children, we protect our future. The way we treat them today determines the world they will inherit tomorrow. The violations we see today are not inevitable. They are choices made by adults, and it's up to us to choose a different path. So let's make the right choices and act now. Every child saved is a future transformed. As Nelson Mandela said, there could be no keener revelation of a society's soul than the way in which it treats its children. We all have a role in building a world where no child cries in silence. So let's look into our hearts and do better. Thank you for joining us today on the first episode of the Onaolapo Show. Don't forget to like, share, and most importantly, take action. Until next time, stay empowered and stay hopeful.
Bye.